Hi guys, Dr. Wendy Dearborne here from Food Beyond Its Nutrition. And of course, many of you know me for saying bon appetit. Come on, let's eat. So guys, today I'm going to be making some artisan bread. And for those of you who have been following me forever, you know I have a pet peeve, especially over the last 5 years. You know I have a pet peeve about bread. Well, it works out that many people have become or feel that they are gluten intolerant or gluten sensitive. But the name of the game is they're actually not gluten sensitive. They've become very sensitive to the herbicides and the fungicides and the germicides and all these sides that they spray over wheat or the wheat berries while it's in the silos, so it doesn't mold, so it doesn't rot. And as a result, people have become sensitive to that. People have actually figured this out for themselves because they've gone, I don't know, to Italy or somewhere in Europe where they don't use as much as this stuff. And they're able to eat the pasta, they're able to eat the bread, they're able to do all these things that they can't do here. And basically, it's what they're spraying the food with. So anyway, in addition to that, my pet peeve with bread is, oh, there's the oven going for the bread. My pet peeve with this is bread can be made from 3 ingredients. Okay, guys? When you look at a loaf of bread, it has, in many cases, no less than 25 ingredients. And you know, it has me thinking, okay, so what am I doing wrong? You know, it's got 25 ingredients. I must be doing something wrong if I can make bread from 3 basic ingredients: flour, water, and yeast. But today, I'm going to be making some artisan bread. And this artisan bread is a no-knead bread. Many people don't like to make bread, or if they don't like a bread machine, for them it's just so much hassle. This is, as the saying goes, easy peasy. This bread actually kneads itself. Mother Nature does its thing and does it well. You never have to knead this bread. You never have to spend 15, 20 or 10 minutes kneading this bread so the gluten can actually develop. So anyway, guys, we're going to be doing artisan bread. This is a no-knead bread. And I'm going to do a half batch. And for me, this is an experiment, because usually I do a full batch, but this is a half batch for me. So we're going to get to it. Artisan bread, no-knead bread. Okay guys, let's take a look to see what we've got on our cutting board, or as it is, my counter, to see what we need to make this artisan no-knead bread. It's delicious, by the way. Well, of course you need your tools, and we've got a spatula here and a spoon. And notice I have a long handle spoon. It's a long handle spoon, okay? Mine's plastic. You can use a wooden spoon if you want. And we're going to use that to actually mix the bread up. We're going to make a nice shaggy dough. So you've got your bowl. I have a scraper here. You're going to need that. But let's get to the ingredients. We have bread flour and water. We have bread flour. Now, bread flour is also known in Europe as strong flour. And the gluten in this is, I'm going to use the word more pronounced because I can't think of the other word, but the gluten in this is stronger than the gluten in all-purpose flour. But you can use all-purpose flour in this recipe. Okay, I have approximately a cup of lukewarm, and it really is lukewarm water in this measuring cup. So I'm going to add most of it to the bowl. And leave just a little bit behind in the measuring cup. And again, depending on where you are, that will depend on how much water you need. Sometimes you need less, sometimes you need more. I'm going to put in, for me today, half a teaspoon of sugar. I'm going to put in 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Okay? It's got to be flavored. If it's not flavored, it's not going to taste right. And to that, I am going to put in 1/8 of a teaspoon, and that's 1/8 of a teaspoon of active dry yeast. So that's what you'll need. Active dry yeast, salt, sugar. Sugar's not a requirement. I'm also going to put half a teaspoon of oil. You can use olive oil. You can use olive oil. You can use any oil, any cooking oil, vegetable oil. I'm actually using avocado oil. So in the bowl at this moment in time, we have 1/8 of a teaspoon of yeast. We have half a teaspoon of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and we have half a teaspoon of vegetable oil, and we have about 7.5 ounces of really lukewarm water. So guys, literally you just give this a mix. Just mix it up, just like so. This is really easy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the flour. So to this we are going to add 1 3/4 cups of flour. This is 1/4 cup. Okay. We've got half a cup. And this recipe is, as they do say, really forgiving. That's half a cup. So we've got 3/4 of a cup there. And we're going to add a cup. So we're going to add 1 cup and 3/4 of flour. And we're just going to mix this. Okay guys, we are going to use the long handle of the spoon to mix the dough. And it really doesn't take very long. Just bring the flour from the outside in. And again, depending on what's going on, if it's really humid where you're at, or if it's ultra dry where you're at, it may mean that you require more water and or less water. And you're going to get kind of shaggy, sticky dough. And I'm just going to use my spatula to just scrape the side down a little bit, such that it is. And just scrape the sides down just a little bit. And just keep bringing the dough together. And then we're going to cover it with some cling film. See guys, this is what the dough looks like. Yeah? And then we're going to cover this with some cling film and put it in a very warm spot. We're going to leave this for 8 to 12 hours. And we're going to allow Mother Nature to do what Mother Nature does best. And Mother Nature will literally proof this dough. You will not have to. You won't have to knead it. You won't have to do anything to it. So guys, we're going to come back. We're going to clear up and we're going to come back and I'm going to show you what happens when the bread rises. When the yeast has done its thing and it's proved and it's kneaded, nature has kneaded this by itself, this is what happens. That's how much it will rise. And you can see it's kind of, I'm going to degas it. I'm going to show you how to degas it before I get in there. But guys, you can see the difference. Hopefully you can see the difference. Mr. Cameraman, have we got the difference? Yes, good, thank you. Okay, so that's how much it's risen. Now once it's risen, and I'm going to move this out of the way, this is going to go in a nice warm spot, and she's going to be over by my cooker. Let's take care of that. Once it's risen, it's really important for you to degas the dough. And to degas your bread dough, literally, you put the end of the spoon in and just spin it round. You spin and you pull. You spin and you pull. degassed, and this operates much like a dough hook would operate on your on your stand mixer, even in the bread machine. And that's it, it's a done deal. So what we're going to do is you're going to set your oven to 450 degrees. For this particular recipe, there are different no-knead recipes that require it to be at 350, 375, 400, 425. But for this particular recipe, it needs to be at 450. So once you get to this stage, because the bread's going to have a second rise, you're going to put your oven on to 450 degrees. You also need something to bake it on. You can use a cookie sheet, a lined cookie sheet. You could, look, we're going to go with the lined cookie sheet, but you can use a casserole dish, Corningware. You can use cast iron. You can use cast iron. You can bake this in anything. You can literally bake it in anything. Make sure that it's sprayed well with cooking spray. I use Pam. You can definitely use coconut oil, anything that can take a high temperature. You can use grapeseed oil. It needs to be able to take a high temperature. Olive oil doesn't have a very high smoke point, so you need an oil that takes a high temperature. So that being said, I've got my workspace floured. I've degassed my dough, and I made, this is the first time, guys, I'm making a half batch, because I didn't really want to make 2 full batches. You can actually sprinkle, if you want, a little bit of flour on top, just a tad, doesn't need a lot. Alright, just a tad. And then what we do is we're going to fold it over onto itself. Fold it over onto itself. And that's what we're going to do. It's a done deal. I actually need a bit more flour because it's sticking to my table, sticking to my work surface. But I'm going to cut this. Okay, I want it into a little kind of rectangle. I'm going to cut it into half. I'm going to cut it into half, and then again I'm going to roll it. And as you can see, guys, this is really a sticky dough, and be okay with it. That's how it's meant to be. It's a sticky dough. All right. Okay. And I may as well do this one while I'm at it. And guys, if you want, you can cut these into squares. You can cut them and make them round. You can make them into rolls. But I want baguette shapes. So literally, this is like a baguette pan. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put him onto the pan. And that's it. That's a done deal. Actually, what I will do, just so we can see, I'm gonna do that into a little square shape, and that's it. It's so simple that I'm saying to myself in my head, you know, have I covered all the steps? And I really have. So from here on out, what we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna cover this with a lint-free cloth, and we're going to allow it to rise for another 60 minutes.
The baking process. Place your oven rack into the center of your oven. Set the temperature to 450 degrees. Your oven needs to be preheated for 30 minutes prior to baking your bread. So if your proof time is 60 minutes, 30 minutes halfway into the proof time, you're going to need to set a timer to remind you to turn your oven on to 450 degrees. Place the bread on the cookie sheet, the baking pan, whatever you're using. Place the bread onto the middle rack in the middle of the oven. and allow to bake for 30 minutes. Set the timer. Once the bread is done, put it onto a rack and a cookie rack and allow it to cool completely before cutting. Okay guys, the bread is out of the oven and it smells absolutely divine in here. So let's take a look at the bread. I've got a bread knife here and I'm going to cut it. Yay, look at that guys. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful crumb. Very, very nice. Very nice. Actually, if it had cooled down a little bit more, it would look a little different. It would definitely, the crumb would look different in here because it's really still quite warm. But guys, beautiful bread. Look what you can do on an 1/8 of a teaspoon of yeast. Well, I'm going to put some pesto on this and I'm going to enjoy this because I love pesto. So please remember that beyond vitamins and minerals, food brings other nutrition into your life. Food literally feeds the soul. I'm Dr. Wendy Dearborne. Until next time, guys. Peace.